You ever have one of those mornings where your whole life turns upside down before you even finish your coffee? That was me, the day I heard my son Tyler's scream sharp enough to shatter every ounce of calm in our little cul-de-sac. I ran outside in my slippers, hair sticking up, barely breathing myself, only to find Tyler kneeling in the grass, arms wrapped tight around Marley, our golden retriever, who was barely breathing at all. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped my phone calling 911. And across the street, arms folded like she owned the air itself, stood Karen Mitchell, the Queen Bee, HOA president, watching us with this smug little smirk, just muttering about finally getting rid of that mutt. Yeah, that happened, and you better believe it was only the start. We'd only been in Pine Ridge Estates for 3 months, and if you'd asked me back then, I would have told you the whole point of moving was to help Tyler settle, give him structure. He's 12 autistic, and when I say routine is his lifeline, I mean it. Marley's not just a pet, he's Tyler's certified emotional support animal, his anchor in a world that's way too loud and fast. Those two were inseparable. For the first time in years, I actually saw my boy find peace. That was worth everything. But from the moment we pulled up that first day, Karen Mitchell made it painfully clear she didn't want us here. She'd show up with that damned clipboard citing violations I swear she invented on the drive over your mailbox is 2 inches off grass, half an inch too long. That dog shouldn't be outside without supervision. Never mind Marley's calmer than half the adults on our street, never barked, never left our yard, mostly just napping beside Tyler. None of it mattered. Karen's complaints went from annoying to straight-up hostile. First came the official HOA letters, claims about excessive barking that were so ridiculous I actually laughed out loud. Marley barely made a sound. When that didn't stick, she demanded paperwork, so I handed over every document you could want. But then out of nowhere, she says Marley breaks the pet weight limit, some rule nobody else ever heard of and suspiciously dated just after we moved in. I tried playing it cool. I went to every meeting, brought neighbors to vouch for us. Most just stared at their shoes, too scared of Karen to speak up. She ruled the neighborhood like her personal fiefdom, and if you crossed her, you'd better be ready for a mountain of fines and passive-aggressive notes in your mailbox. Then things got weird. Last week, Karen started following Tyler and Marley, taking pictures as they walked, claiming she was documenting violations. She'd stand at her property line, phone out, making Tyler so anxious he'd have a meltdown before breakfast. I called the police. They shrugged it off, said it was a neighbor dispute. Thanks for nothing. So fast forward to that morning. Tyler, like clockwork, feeds Marley at 7 a.m. Sharp bowls set on the back patio safe behind our fence. But that day, within minutes of eating, Marley started convulsing, collapsed right there on the grass. By the time I got to them, there was foam at his mouth, his fur soaked in sweat. I can still hear the vet's voice, low, serious. This is definitely poisoning, probably antifreeze or rat poison mixed in the food. We'll do everything we can, but you need to prepare yourself. Try telling your autistic child his best friend might not make it. I couldn't. Tyler sat in that waiting room for 6 hours, rocking back and forth, completely shut down. While my husband stayed with Tyler, I did something I'd hoped never to do. I pulled out my personal phone and made a call, Karen Mitchell, and the rest of Pine Ridge never saw coming. You see, there's a reason I keep a low profile. I'm not just the quiet mom with the sensible SUV. I'm also the newly appointed director of the FBI. Yeah, let that sink in. My team arrived within the hour, not in suits and shades, but as utility workers, joggers, delivery drivers. They set up quiet and visible, and in less than a day, we had every angle covered. We tracked Karen's recent purchases, pulled up every email, every text about the dog problem. We checked neighbors' security cameras and doorbells. What we found, well, it was cinematic. One neighbor's camera showed Karen slipping into our backyard at 4 a.m. with a little plastic container. The chemical analysis on Marley's vomit matched rat poison purchased with Karen's own credit card 2 days before. But the real kicker, her text to her sister bragging about solving the dog problem. Meanwhile, Karen was basking in her little victory lap. That night, she called an emergency HOA meeting pretending it was about pet policies, but really she just wanted to gloat. She stood at the podium rambling about property values and taking matters into your own hands when the authorities won't act. That's when the doors swung open and federal agents, my people, walked in. The look on Karen's face was priceless. They quietly asked her to step outside. Her clipboard clattered to the floor. Neighbors whispered, eyes wide. You could feel the power shift. Next morning, Karen Mitchell was officially charged with animal cruelty, criminal trespass, and reckless endangerment of a disabled child. That last one's a federal offense. Poisoning a certified support animal isn't just cruel, it's illegal on a whole new level. Her lawyer turned sheet white when he realized who I was. The story blew up. Local, then national HOA president poisoned FBI director's son's support dog. Karen's perfect little world unraveled overnight. The investigation turned up years of financial fraud, buried HOA fines, intimidation, all of it. Neighbors, finally brave, lined up to tell their stories. Turns out we weren't the first. But you want the best part? Marley survived. Barely. 3 days in critical care, but that dog fought like hell. When we brought him home, Tyler wrapped his arms around Marley and just kept whispering, "You're okay, you're okay." For the first time since that awful morning, my boy smiled. 2 weeks later, the HOA board called an emergency vote. Karen, stripped of her title, sat in the back, suddenly invisible. Her kingdom crumbled in real time. She just turned and walked out, her heels echoing down the hall. The investigation. Oh, it was just getting started. Karen had imposed over $300,000 in bogus fines, forced elderly neighbors out of their homes, even put up hidden cameras around the community. People started coming forward. Margaret Chen fined $5,000 for having the wrong color roses. Robert Williams, a Vietnam vet, forced to remove his American flag. Never mind, it followed all the rules. The Patel family. She called Child Protective Services after their daughter's birthday party went 5 minutes past curfew. And then came Dr. Morrison, Tyler's psychiatrist, who explained in court, Marley wasn't just a pet. He was Tyler's connection to the world, his chance at a real life. The judge's face got dark hearing how all that progress vanished after the poisoning. Karen's attorney tried to play the misunderstood volunteer card, but the prosecution read those texts out loud, messages about shutting that kid up or putting those people in their place. The worst one? You have to be ruthless with these types. They'll drag down property values if you let them. There was no coming back from that. State charges piled on 37 counts: harassment, fraud, abuse of power. IRS started poking into her creative accounting. 3 families filed civil suits. Even her husband testified against her. He'd had enough too. Sentencing day was the most satisfying thing I've ever seen. The judge didn't hold back. In 30 years, I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty. You didn't just poison a dog. You tried to destroy a disabled child's lifeline. You abused your position, terrorized your neighbors, and showed a callous disregard for human decency. 5 years in federal prison, no early release. Full restitution, $150,000. Banned from HOA boards, 500 hours of animal shelter community service, $75,000 in fines. And because it was against a protected child, she had to register as a hate crime offender and stay 1,000 feet away from us forever. Any slip, another decade behind bars. The room was dead quiet except for Karen's lawyer scribbling like mad. Karen herself, she just stood there, mouth opening and closing, making these tiny noises like a fish out of water. When the judge dropped the gavel, she wailed, No, this can't be happening. You said I'd get probation." The bailiffs moved in. She was sobbing, clutching the table, shrieking about her reputation, her community standing. The judge didn't even blink. "Your reputation is now exactly what it should be, a petty tyrant who tortured a disabled child." As they dragged her away, she kept screaming about unfairness, about revenge, her voice fading until the doors shut with a final perfect thud. You'd think that's the end, right? But here's the kicker. Folks started asking if the real problem was Karen or the system that let her run wild for so long. Some neighbors wanted to dissolve the HOA altogether. Others argued you need strict rules to keep the peace. I'm not sure what comes next for Pine Ridge or if any place like this ever really changes. But I'll say this, sometimes the fight for your family, for decency, it means showing your true self no matter the cost. So, what do you think? Did justice get served, or does this all just prove how broken communities can get when people in power go unchecked? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me, where's the line between order and cruelty? And have you ever tangled with an HOA dictator like Karen? Let's hear your story.